Now we're live. Hello friends, Jai Bhim, Jai Mandal, Hul Johar, Satrangi Salam. Today is 6th December, and we know that on this day we celebrate as Mahaparinirvan Day of Baba Sahib Ambedkar. Baba Sahib Ambedkar is a crucial figure of India. He fought for justice, equality, and liberty. On this day, on 6th December 1956, he passed away. And today we are remembering his 64th Mahaparinirvan Day. And on this series, Bapsa Sivji is organizing a lecture series. In this series, today we are going to discuss on Baba Sahib Ambedkar ideas. Today's our speaker is Professor Umesh Bagade, Professor and Head Department of History and Ancient Indian Culture, Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar Marathwada University, Aurangabad. Professor Bagade has a more than more than 1.5 decades of teaching experience, and he has also administrative experience where he worked as ancient where he has worked as in charge head of department history and ancient Indian culture, um, Baba Sahib Ambedkar Marathwada University. He also worked as director of Rajshri Sahu Maharaj Research Center, Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar Marathwada University. He has published various research publications in reputed journals in Marathi and English languages. And Professor Bagade has large number of experience, and he has delivered various lecture in seminar at the national and international level. He has also delivered several lectures in the refresher and orientation course organized by academic staff colleges at Pune University and Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar Marathwada University, Aurangabad. Also coordinated a number of refresher courses at academic staff college Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar Marathwada University, Aurangabad. And without any delay or without taking any time, I would like to uh, thank on the behalf of Babsa Sivji that Professor Bagare sir accepted our invitation and gave your very valuable time for our organization. And again, I would like to thank sir. And now I would like to invite you sir to speak, and he will be speaking on Dr. Baba Ambedkar on caste slavery.
Jai Bhim to all. I thank all of you for inviting me for this very important lecture. I have chosen this topic basically because, as you know, that there are certain events taking place in India. There is a rigorous kind of agitation going on in Delhi and adjoining kind of parts. The peasantry and farmers are fighting for their own cause. And we know that things are moving differently in India, as we all know that Baba Sahib Ambedkar has given us a constitution. Baba Sahib Ambedkar has given a certain kind of a movement of human right, and that has given rights to laborers. And because of certain kind of, we can say, changes brought in the law, even these legal rights are taken away from the laborers. Peasantry is fighting their own kind of struggle. So within these kinds of, we can say, scenario, we are talking about caste slavery. And you will be amazed that when I am talking about caste slavery, the issues are largely, which I have flagged, are class issues. For example, there are labor laws which has been stripped out. There are peasantry which has been now caged through new laws. So I am talking about the scenario of class, and I picked the issue of caste slavery. So why I'm doing this exercise, and to understand this, I will somehow cite example of Baba Sahib Ambedkar's argument which he offered in 1938. You all know that in 1938, the Congress government introduced the Trade Dispute Act. You all know that the act was taking away the right of laborer to revolt, the right to strike. The laborers or the working class right to strike was in certain way minimized by the act which we understand as Trade Dispute Act. Ambedkar at that time was a thinker, was a leader who fought against this new law. Ambedkar criticized it differently than the Marxist who joined Ambedkar against this fight. There was a big rally organized in Mumbai. Ambedkar spoke in this rally, and Ambedkar wrote to government related to this issue. What Ambedkar spoke in the rally and what Ambedkar wrote to the government. And there Ambedkar has made a certain kind of observation that if you are taking away the right to strike, then you are making the working class dependent to the masters, that is the industrialist, and that is nothing but the new regime of slavery. Ambedkar is using the metaphor of slavery to explain the condition of working class in 1938. We all know that the working class relationship to industrialist is not the relationship of slavery, but Ambedkar was making a mention of a condition where he says that if at all you are taking a right to strike, will amount to turning the working class into slaves. Now, one could understand that Ambedkar was using the term uh, slavery in broad sense. Ambedkar was somehow working out a new way of understanding even capitalism. Ambedkar clearly said that the imperialist extraction, the imperialist surplus appropriation was based on caste slavery. Ambedkar's understanding, nuanced understanding, was much different than Marxist. Marxists are all we know that they are having a certain kind of, we can say, the jargon of Marxian jargon of understanding capitalism, but they have failed to understand the nature of imperialism as this was understood by Dr. Ambedkar. So here one has to understand that there is some kind of relationship which was a relationship of labor, which is relationship of domination subordination, and this relationship of domination subordination, relationship of social production, has to be seen in terms of caste. And why one can understand this, one should know that India, the working class as well as peasantry is caged by caste. Till now, the peasantry and working class are under the tutelage of caste slavery. And what is this caste slavery? Why Ambedkar has used this term? You all have read Ambedkar's important kind of speech, Unleash of the Caste, where Ambedkar has very pertinently remarked that caste is slavery, and not Dalits only, but all are slaves of caste. So Ambedkar was using the term slavery to understand the social, economic, cultural, psychological phenomenon of caste. One should know that there are ways of understanding things. And when we try to understand a particular thing, we use different kind of metaphors or metonymies through which we understand things. Ambedkar was using the metaphor of slavery to understand the specific phenomenon of caste that you should bear in mind. So, why Ambedkar was doing this? And what was Ambedkar's position to locate the caste slavery through this? The first mention of caste slavery means Ambedkar using the term slavery to understand caste appears in his first speech, not speech, his first witness to Southborough Commissions. This was his coming to politics. This was his rise to politics. This was his certain kind of, we can say, first kind of introduction to politics. Ambedkar has given a memorandum to Southborough Commission. You all know that in 1919 there was this Montagu Chelmsford reforms supposed to come, and Southborough Commission came to India to know the opinions of people, and Ambedkar has submitted his memorandum to this. In that uh, memorandum, Ambedkar has first used metaphor of slavery to understand caste, and particularly the issue of untouchables. Ambedkar has used the word conspicated persona. You all should understand that in slavery, the personhood is not given to the slaves. The citizenship is not given to the slaves. So you can study the ancient Greek system of slavery, and Ambedkar did that. Ambedkar has studied caste vis-a-vis slavery in different parts of the world. Ambedkar has made a certain kind of comparative analysis of slavery which practiced in ancient Greece. Ambedkar made a certain kind of comparison with Jews, particularly those the minorities who are subjugated, and in other way were excluded. So this was a certain kind of group of people who had similar kind of condition. Ambedkar compared the condition of untouchable with Jews. Ambedkar also compared the condition of untouchables with the uh, the minority, particularly the Catholics in England. And what are the way and what are the practices? The process of exclusion is taking place in England, particularly about the minorities called Catholics. So Ambedkar was making a certain kind of analytical exercise to understand caste as a specific particular phenomenon which is too unique to India. Ambedkar used the kind of category of slavery to make sense of caste. And at the same time, Ambedkar used this to understand the peculiarity and processes of caste slavery. Now let us understand what exactly kind of ways Ambedkar was trying to understand slavery. There are several nuance aspects of it. I won't go to all kinds of aspect. I will be picking because in the hour or so, I can't explain each and every aspect of Ambedkar's kinds of writings, but I could pick some kind of, we can say, issues through which we can arrange our own kind of, we can say, discussion. The important part where Ambedkar defined the slavery, where the personhood is not given to slaves. What exactly personhood or citizenship is demarcated? Citizenship gives three kinds of rights. Means there are three kinds of rights which are given to human beings, which we all understand as human rights. And what are these? These are the rights which all understand, which are there in our kind of, you can say, constitution: fundamental rights, right to move, a right to speak, a right to construct a house, a right to do a job, all kinds of these civil liberties: to drink water from common resources, to walk in the common kind of roads. All such rights, which we understand as civil rights, are guaranteed, are given to the citizen. One. Second important thing one has to understand, that the right to self-respect is given to human beings, persons, citizens. So you know that those who are human beings, those who are persons, those who are citizens, are guaranteed that they will be respected. And there is a respect which is ingrained in the citizenship, and there is a right to respect. And third kind of right is a right to security, that nobody would harm that man, and there is no right to others to harm the man or the citizen or a person. So these are a certain kind of, you can say, three kinds of rights. Ambedkar, in Southborough Commission's memorandum, tells us, are there rights, civil liberties are guaranteed, given to untouchables? And you will see, yes, majority of civil liberties are not given to Dalits, untouchables. For example, they can't drink water from common kind of tanks, wells, and they can't even walk to a certain kinds of road. They don't have access to kind of, you can say, gairans, that is a village kind of, you can say, grazing lands. So there are certain kinds of, you can say, disabilities which are inflicted on untouchables. Why these kinds of disabilities inflicted on untouchable? And the ground is very clear: there is no right to citizenship is given to untouchables. Ambedkar has a very complex kind of understanding of this phenomenon. So one thing is very clear: as you all know, that respect is not guaranteed to untouchables. In earlier part, you know that the names of Dalits were always inauspicious and disrespectful. For example, in Maharashtra, there was a name called Kasru. That is dirt, filth, is the name of a man. So you know all these kinds of, you can say, instances, that the Dalits were not allowed to take the names of respectable kind of gods, or respectable kinds of, you can say, people, or respectable kinds of things. So largely you will find that it is this whole kind of disrespect is ingrained, as the, you know that slaves don't have the right to respect. Slaves don't have civil liberties. Similarly, the slave don't have the security. And you know that in India, untouchables are uh, always facing the atrocities committed by the high caste. So obviously, you will know that this is a certain kind of phenomenon which is operating in India, and where there is similarity of a kind of rights given to the citizens, and right denied to slave. Ambedkar has made a certain kind of comparison in different kind of his writings, and there are some kind of inconsistencies. I won't go into this inconsistencies. There was interesting kind of article, a paper or article written by Ambedkar in 1943, when he had dialogue with Abe Du Bois. And at that time, he has written an interesting kind of text: what is worse, slavery or untouchability? Ambedkar was at that time responding to an interesting kind of text written by the Lala Lajpat Rai. Lala Lajpat Rai has written a book called Unhappy India, and in Unhappy India, he has argued that untouchability is in a certain way is better than of slavery. Slavery is worse than untouchability. That is the argument placed by Lala Rajpat Rai in his book called Unhappy India. And this particular man, Abe Du Bois, was in connection with uh, Lala Lajpat Rai, and Abu Du Bois was influenced by the great achievements of Indians, and he also argued that blacks he conceived the black unity with Indians, and what kinds of, we can say, achievement India has made has seen as achievements of blacks. In that certain way, he homogenized India, and he has not understood the nuances of the caste exploitation, untouchability, and the severe kinds of, you can say, inhumanity persisting in India. So, in that sense, Ambedkar was responding to the writings of the Lala Lajpat Rai, and was saying that caste, this untouchability, is worse than of slavery. Fine, where Ambedkar defines slavery as legal subjections, where you will find that the slave is the private property of a master, private property of master. So, in that sense, one has to understand that there was a certain kind of exercise which Ambedkar has made to locate caste as similar to slavery as well as different than slavery. So, one thing very clear that Ambedkar made this exercise in Marathi articles. You might be knowing that Ambedkar has published newspapers. Ambedkar, the first newspaper you all know was Muknayak, the second was Bhishkrut Bharat. And in Bhishkrut Bharat, there was uh, articles, more than 5 6 articles, which appeared. And these articles were accompanied by a bill which Ambedkar put in the Bombay presidency of abolishing the slavery of Maharvatan. One has to understand that Ambedkar has equated the Mahar caste slavery with the structures of slavery, and he has somehow given us a certain kinds of specificities of the Mahar operation, caste operation, particularly in terms of slavery. So Ambedkar, even you might have read Untouchable, his important kind of book, and even his fifth volume, you will find there are, in English also, there are certain kinds of explanations about the nature of condition of labor. Ambedkar defines the condition of labor, particularly of untouchable labor, as slavery. Ambedkar explains each and every aspect of slavery. Means what? In kinds of, and you have to understand there is ways Ambedkar equates slavery and caste. Well, you will find that in a class kind of scenario where labor is defined. For example, I'm a teacher and I'm teaching in university, and the government has defined my work that as a teacher, as a professor, I have to give lectures for more than 14 hours per week. So this is my kind of, we can say, job where my labor is quantified. Ambedkar gives a list of works. For example, particularly those who are from Maharashtra might be knowing that Mahar are assigned burden of labor, drudgery of labor, and there was a kind of labor where the Mahars has to take out things from one place to another place. For example, they have to give messages. They have to move the agriculture implements from the homes of peasantry to the field, and from field to his home. He has to move the other kinds of things For example, if there is a produce, he has to move this from one place to another. If there are government jobs for taking a certain kind of packets from one place to another place. So these kinds of burdens of taking one from one place to another, there was more than 44 kinds of these burdens of just kind of, we can say, taking burdens from one place to another place. So Ambedkar makes a certain kind of list of labor, and very interesting. There is no quantification of labor in a system of slavery. In particularly in wage labor, there is quantification. How many uh, hours? What kind of skilled labor? Means skill is defined. The hours are defined. Hmm? The quantity is defined. So this whole quantification is not there, and therefore the untouchable labor is amounting to slave labor. As you all understand, there is a system within which they have to enter into a certain kind of relationship. Ambedkar defines is a charter of slavery. Ambedkar says that Maharvatan is nothing but a charter of slavery. And therefore, Ambedkar wants that this particular Maharvatan should be abolished. And Ambedkar talks in various way. I don't go into that details. It is very interesting, fascinating kind of survey Ambedkar has conducted. Ambedkar has took Nagar district. Ambedkar has took Pune. Ambedkar has taken Nashik and other parts of Maharashtra. And Ambedkar has done a deep study of Maharvatan, particularly its labor format. And Ambedkar has come to conclusion that even the remuneration is not quantified. So one could understand that in a condition of slavery, there is no quantification of labor and there is no quantification of remuneration. It is the will of a master on which these kinds of exchanges are carried. So, certainly, you definitely would understand that this particular kind of structure of caste labor assigned to untouchable is amounts to slavery. It is enormous kind of slavery. Ambedkar says it's worst. Ambedkar says the skills and education is given to slaves in Europe and America, but the education is denied to them. The clothes were given to them, and clothes are denied to untouchables. So there was a certain kind of condition, and Ambedkar compares it with the slavery and says it is worse. Nonetheless, Ambedkar understand the relationship as a relationship between slave and master. Ambedkar, which in third article and fourth article, Ambedkar is talking about the, the slave consciousness, particularly untouchable slavery and consciousness of slavery. Ambedkar defines particularly about this whole kind of mechanism through which slave and masters are related. For example, Ambedkar identifies that not only the slave is connected to master, but master is connected to slave. Master can be master only then when the slave acknowledge him or her as master. Means this the master would be master only by recognition of a slave. So if at all there is a certain kind of complex kind of, we can say, sign system of respect, uh, certain kind of, we can say, power relationship, inferiority, superiority. And you would know that in Maharashtra, if a Mahar or a Dalit appears comes in front of Patil, that is the dominant peasant caste head of a village, and doesn't bow or doesn't wear the headgear, doesn't wear the pagoda, then it would be seen as insult of that head. So there is a complex kind of, we can say, a system where you will find that a certain kind of relationship is there. The master wants the slaves to obey, master wants slaves to recognize him, master wants the slaves to respect him, and if doesn't happen, then master would somehow inflict violence on the slave. So Ambedkar explains this whole psyche of master. Ambedkar also explains the psyche of a slave, which is assigned to the Mahars. And what are these? And you all know that in particularly those who are from Maharashtra, there is a certain kind of proverb, Patlacha Ghoda, Marala Bhushan. Means there is a certain kind of passivity structured by the slavery. This slavery could be understood as a psyche of inferiority. Inferiority is entrenched in the Dalit consciousness, particularly Dalit kind of, you can say, psyche. It's totally structured around inferiority. Ambedkar makes this whole kind of point of the inferiority and the whole kind of inferiority complex. Ambedkar explains that how Dalits themselves do not see that they are respected. Even if a amallar, a official, gives a chair to the untouchable man, who won't take that chair, who would say that I would be happy uh, in the place of your shoes. So these kinds of, we can say, things Ambedkar quotes and explains that how inferiority is ingrained as a slave psyche of untouchables. Ambedkar also explains that because of this inferiority, there is no kind of, we can say, initiative structure. There is no kind of, we can say, agitation is coming out. Ambedkar also explains about the condition of vulnerability. So Ambedkar, in that sense, was specifying a kind of, we can say, cultural, social, psychological phenomenon of the caste slavery, particularly in the realm of untouchables. Ambedkar was decoding, Ambedkar is explaining, and one should read this, particularly fifth volume. If you read this, there are references of this caste psychology, particularly of slavery and slave consciousness, as well as in this kind of, you can say, articles, you will find the references of it. You all know about Hegel, who has wrote about the dialectics between master slave and things like that. And we will find some kind of, you can say, ways. Ambedkar also mentions about this psyche of master and slave. So, what is this? And why Ambedkar is certainly is using this is an interesting kind of, we can say, breakthrough, where Ambedkar defines the slavery not in a proper kind of structure of slavery. As you know that what is slavery, Ambedkar understand as a specific slavery is a legal subjection, where the slave is the property, private property of master. Ambedkar is not talking about that legal subjection. Ambedkar is using a certain kind of relationship which operates within this whole kind of uh, as between two kind of individuals, two social groups, and two individuals, two social groups are linked with a certain kind of bondage, and that bondage has to be understood, and that bondage should be explained. Ambedkar makes a certain kind of observation about caste slavery, and now he's talking not only about untouchables, but he's talking about all those laboring classes, those who are not have their own choices. Now, one has to understand that in a certain kind of condition of class labor, the laborers have choice to select his or her own labor. For example, if I want to do certain kind of labor, if I want to be carpenter, I can be carpenter. If I want to be a potter, I can be a potter. So in these conditions, there is a choice. But in caste system, there is a predestination that because my father and mother belong to a certain caste, I have to do a certain kind of occupation. So the occupations, the labor is not associated with the choice, but associated with predestination. And there is a caste lineage through which my choice are limited, and I am forced to take up a certain kind of, we can say, occupation. My all choices are not free, and I am caged myself within the certain kind of threshold of my caste. And therefore, Ambedkar says, and Ambedkar uses the definition of Plato, where Plato says that when your purposes of life, your purposes of conduct are not ordained by you but ordained by others, then there is a condition of slavery. So you will find that if there is a carpenter, he himself is not choosing his occupation. Neither he can decide his own kind of remuneration. Neither he can decide his own kind of, we can say, choices of life. So all kinds of purposes and choices of his life are ordained by others. So this is a certain kind of definition which Ambedkar used to explain a certain kind of caste relationship, and particularly the slavery, or can say master slave relationship, structured within caste system. Uh, uh, there is another kind of statement one should but one should connect to this, is that Ambedkar, when was explaining the peculiarity of caste, Ambedkar says that in India, the relationship of man to man, and interestingly, relations between workman to workman are consecrated by religion, and therefore it is unviolable, therefore it is sacred, and you cannot just change it. So Ambedkar is observing that there was a religious grounding to it, and this religious grounding of a kind of psyche is governing the relationship of uh, labor. So a relationship of labor is not structured around the economic phenomenon as we understand that, which can be seen in the Europe or in other places. But in India, the labor or the social relationship of production is ordained by social and religious kinds of structures. So caste as a hierarchy, Ambedkar made a very, you can say, very pertinent kind of observation that caste is hierarchy, particularly caste is division of laborers, and this is not only division of laborers, but it is also within the gradations. Means this division of laborer within the gradations. That is what Ambedkar talks about. So if you take all such kinds of things, observations of Ambedkar, to understand what is this whole relationship. So Ambedkar is making very clear that this relationship has a certain kind of grounding of psyche, religion, social kinds of, you can say, ideas, which are structuring the very existence of this relationship. And therefore, Ambedkar has made a very profound statement, he has given a very profound statement in Unleash the Caste, that caste is not concrete in a way we understand as barbed wire, or we don't, or like not like a kind of wall which is constructed through bricks. It is a notion. Caste is a notion. So, how this whole notion of caste operates and what is this whole kind of structure? So, Ambedkar, understanding caste as a slavery, gives a certain kind of ideological shift to his whole kind of way of understanding Indian realities, and not only Indian realities, but the realities of world. So, what is important to Ambedkar? So here you have to understand very clearly is that the whole logic of Marxism, where Marxism places that whenever there will be changes taking place in means of production, modes of production, there would be change in society. Ambedkar is somehow inverting, changing this whole kind of understanding because, according to Ambedkar, these ideas of caste are important and they are inflicting several processes of marginalization. Ambedkar has very rightly talked about very complex processes where he talks about degradation, where he talks about destitution. Ambedkar has used this word destitution and degradation. How the caste is not only assigning you a certain kind of occupation, this is not a division of labor alone, but this particular kind of ideology is assigning a certain other aspect to it. What are they? That exclusion. You are excluded from things. So this whole process of exclusion, where there is a degradation, where there is destitution, where there is a marginalization. So this process of exclusion is a complex kind of thing which operates in this whole system of caste, as we can understand as even caste economy. That the structure of caste economy is based on this very phenomenon of exclusion, and this exclusion has a concrete kind of processes which is marginalization, which is destitution, which is degradation. So all such kinds of processes are structured, and Ambedkar very rightly points out these processes. Now you can understand that why Ambedkar is relevant even today, not for Indian kind of, we can say, situations, but the situations which are taking place all over the world, as the relationship of domination subordinations are also consecrating the relationship of labor or relationship of social production. So, in that sense, Ambedkar has made a shift from Marxism, and Ambedkar has given a certain kind of primacy to consciousness. That doesn't mean Ambedkar was not giving any kind of Ambedkar was not acknowledging the very importance of economic change. You have to understand that when Ambedkar has introduced the bill of abolishing Maharvatan, Ambedkar at that time was asking Dalits to give up Maharvatan and to enter into relationship of class labor, where there will be you are free to enter into relationship of contract. So from status to contract is a certain kind of process which Ambedkar observed would give a certain kind of mobility to Dalits. And Ambedkar identified that even this kind of, we can say, class mobility is not assigned to Dalits. It is denied to Dalits because of exclusion. This exclusion is very much there. In 19th century, when industries emerged, since then there was a process of exclusion. For example, I will cite example of the laborers in who were there at Godi. And Godi, you know that there are laborers who are taking the kinds of, you can say, burdens from ships to the dock and from dock to ship. These were the Godi Kamgars, and these Godi Kamgars, you will find majority of them were from the peasant caste, and 15% were from Dalit caste, and there were women's, and there is certain kind of, we can say, exclusion means even the labor class, where Dalits are excluded from that kind of burdens which are seen as clean. Dalits are only given the burdens which are seen as filthy and unclean. And Dalit women were assigned the work of cleaning the dock, cleaning the ships. So you can understand that how labor was organized in capitalist system of India. As capitalism came, as industries came, there was a process of exclusion which was operating. So you have to understand that this is a system of a caste slavery, which is certainly is complementing to capitalist exploitation and entering into the capitalist mode of production and was forging with it, and the processes of caste slavery continued to haunt the society and economy, which is shaping towards the progress as we understand. And within that progress and development, there was the process of exclusion which Ambedkar marked. You all know the example, as there was weaving section and there was spinning section, and in weaving section Dalit labor was not allowed. Ambedkar made appeals, Ambedkar made memorandums, and you all know that how Marxists also has not taken this issue in their trade unions. That is very clear to us. So what I'm asking you, Ambedkar in that sense was making two kinds of trajectories of change. As you all know that Ambedkar has put the agenda of caste annihilation, and this agenda of caste alienation, Ambedkar's position about change, Ambedkar's position about transformation is different than of Marxists or different than of others. Why? Basically, because Ambedkar conceived this nuance aspect of social relationship which are ordained by religion, and the legal structure, the religious kinds of backing, social kinds of institutions. And Ambedkar talked about very nuanced and very complex kinds of phenomenon which are controlling caste, or which are the basis of caste. So I want to go into that kind of details. But nonetheless, one has to understand that these processes, particularly, Ambedkar identified that they should be eliminated. And what is the annihilation of the caste, and why caste should be annihilated? And that is very clear that you should end these processes. And how we can end these processes? And therefore, Ambedkar has a strategy. Ambedkar took a strategy of revolution. One, that is change within themselves, means those who are slaves has to change their conception of world, and they should not somehow complement the master slave relationship. They should themselves come out from the fold of slavery. So Ambedkar's kind of, we can say, struggle was marked by dignity, as you know, that self-respect. Self-respect became a ground of struggle in America, and self-respect became ground of struggle in India, and self-respect became the ground of struggle even in feminist movement. What is the common? Because these groups were, as a slaves, denied self-respect. So, what is self respect? And Ambedkar has made a certain kind of exercise of defining self respect, and you all know about the various aspects of it. But I will somehow cite two, three things. One, that is self respect is a certain kind of anger against the injustice, and you are strongly struggling until the justice is served. So this is a certain kind of explanation given by Abedbois. That what is this self-respect? Self-respect is a feeling, and in this feeling where you will be fighting against injustice till the justice is served. So this is a certain kind of we can say agitation, and that agitation kind of position where you will be seeking self-respect through constant kind of struggle. But largely there are three aspects. One, kind of we can say aspect of this self-respect is of uh, the it is some kind of pride. Pride, what is this pride? And people always confuse this pride. Means, for example, there are caste histories. There is a history of Mahars. There can be histories of each and every caste monks. There can be histories of Pasis. There can be history of Chamars. There can be histories of n number of lower castes. Ambedkar was not talking about specifically about a particular caste history. Ambedkar never went for the caste kind of pride. You have to understand very clearly that Ambedkar never endorsed the low caste histories as caste histories. म्हणजे particular caste history, for example, history of Mahars, history of monks, history of Chamars, history of Pasi. This is not the kind of history Ambedkar never conceived as emancipatory. Ambedkar always conceived it as the groups. Ambedkar has, as you know, as understood the mechanism of caste and the way this caste was the antagonism of caste is structured. Ambedkar says there's avarnas and savarnas. Within the Savarnas, there is antagonism where the Shudras and Trevarnikas. So you will find that within the Avarnas, there are three kinds of caste group. One is untouchable, the other is the nomadic tribes, and third is uh, the uh, the tribes, the indigenous tribes. So these ways Ambedkar identified different groups, and Ambedkar find that whenever there is a caste consciousness, caste antagonism emerges, and whenever there is a caste group consciousness, there is caste group antagonism emerges. For example, when there is an atrocity committed on Dalits, there would be solidarity of Savarna and Savarna, this whole kind of, you can say, solidarity of Savarna operates against Dalits as one kind of whole solidarity. So Ambedkar somehow explains this whole phenomenon, and within that, Ambedkar identifies the pride. This pride is very integral part of self-respect, and that pride is nothing but a consistent kind of struggle against the system. If you identify yourselves with the the people, the individuals, the communities who are fighting against the injustice of caste, and you are taking pride from this, then this is a pride which Ambedkar has endorsed. This is a pride of those who fought valiantly against injustice. The second aspect of it is very interesting. That is uh, where you are not uh, looking at things which somehow make you caged. You're too free to think, and this very freedom is integral to self-respect. So one has to understand that this whole kind of freedom which Ambedkar fought for and Ambedkar identified. So Ambedkar gives a certain kind of understanding of self-respect, which is emancipatory in various ways. So it should not be caged, that you should be living to a certain kind of limited agendas. You should transcend your kind of consciousness to level. So all such kinds of things Ambedkar talks about, and Ambedkar gives you the path of uh, the changing individual, changing communities, changing the values, and the broad kind of, we can say, terrain on which the self-respect can be attained is through ethics. So this is ethics of Maitri, ethics of Buddhism. It is universal ethics, which within which you will be struggling, we will be fighting, you will be taking out the struggle. So this is Ambedkar's kinds of understanding, and Ambedkar gives alternative religion. Ambedkar gives alternative notion of community. Ambedkar gives alternative way of living. Ambedkar gives alternative kinds of universal ethics. Ambedkar gives a certain kind of mode of education, and Ambedkar therefore gives emphasis on education because Ambedkar wants that if at all education, training minds, changing people, there could be a certain kind of onerous kind of revolution which can take place in India. Therefore, in Unleash of the Caste, Ambedkar says, categorically comments that in each and every revolution, revolution might be economic, revolution might be political, revolution might be social. Each and every revolution is preceded by intellectual and cultural revolution. Ambedkar gives example of Warkari Sampradaya. This particularly Bhakti Sampradaya in Maharashtra has given rise to the state of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. The cultural and intellectual kinds of vibrance of Sikh uh, sect has given the rise to Sikh state. Similarly, you know that the cultural and intellectual kinds of, you can say, revolution which has taken place in France has given rise to French Revolution. So he has given a certain kinds of examples, and Ambedkar says that in India, if at all you have to carry out change, then these changes is to fight against the structure of caste, and to fight against structure of caste. Ambedkar has given the another kinds of agenda. As you know that he has given Buddhism. At the same, one has to understand that he has given states and minority, where the very basic structures, the economic structures which are subsisting caste should be destroyed. Therefore, the whole kinds of, we can say, state socialism was endorsed by Ambedkar. So there is one aspect, it says socialism, the other aspect is Buddhism. Ambedkar was bringing this change, particularly in India, where you will find that Ambedkar was connecting caste with slavery, and the way he analyzed the whole philosophical kinds of, we can say, legacies and kind of contemporary kinds of thinkers. Ambedkar comes to a certain kind of emancipatory trajectory to Buddhism, state socialism, and a certain kind of, we can say, constitutional democracy. And this is a certain kind of terrain where we can somehow commemorate Dr. Ambedkar and can take his legacy of thought further. I thank you all for patiently listening me. I know that you will be asking questions. If you have any questions, you definitely can ask. I thank all the organizers and all of you for patiently listening me. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Uh, Thanks a lot, sir, for fruitful lecture, and that you discussed about various aspect of slavery and how the slavery in Indian society different from Western society, and the relationship between master and how it is related with the slave, and how this relationship between master and slave is crucial to understand slave consciousness and the slavery in the realm of untouchability, and how the idea of Baba Sahib Ambedkar on slavery is different than the slavery as a private property, and how the caste system does not recognize choice as a slave compared to Western society. Uh, um, in the fifth volume of Baba Sahib Ambedkar, published by Maharashtra government, he also make a point about uh, grade hierarchy, where he writes that in the system of graded hierarchy, all parties not on equal platform. He gives an illustration that in a system of graded hierarchy, Brahmin are high at the top of highest, Kshatriya are higher, Vaishya are high, Sudra are low, and the untouchables are the lower. In this system, the higher want to remove the status of remove from the position of highest, but the same time did not want to meet the hand with lowest and others. And Thus, in system of graded hierarchy, Baba Sahib will point out that without any elite in caste, we cannot make any common platform to fight against any kind of injustice. And sir, your lecture was very wide perspective, and it was a very lengthy and very interesting also. And we have such two questions also asked by one from Pradhani Bagh and another from Havaldar Bharti. First question is that, sir, Pradhani Bagh asks, Bahujan masses, their social, economic, and cultural capital are not good. Even also, some educated are those who are in the power position. They are not interested to uplift to masses, but good connection with upper caste. In this situation, what is your view?
There is a shift of consciousness between the middle classes in the Dalit Bahujan masses. Those who come from Dalit Bahujan kind of caste, particularly middle classes, are largely hedonist. They are self-centric. They are alienated. So you will find that those who don't have any organic links with the caste, particularly Dalit caste and Bahujan castes, and those who are alienated will be jokers in this whole kind of scenario, and you will find that several kinds of jokers and several kinds of, we can say, dalals, particularly of power brokers who are working within the system. So this is a kind of scenario which is not expected by many people, but there is a clear and concrete kinds of, we can say, signs that major classes, particularly middle classes, are alienated from the Dalit Bahujan masses. They are severely hedonist. Means I have seen several people building palatial kinds of bungalows, taking kinds of cars. I'm not against their kind of consumption. I definitely acknowledge their consumption as a good sign of their prosperity, and they should definitely, we should somehow do this. But my point is this, that they are so much engrossed in these kinds of consumptions that they are not at all politically aware about the situation within which the India is going in. The second thing one has to understand that what is then is the alternative, and this alternative is obvious, and that is very much there in the kind of politics which Ambedkar has given to us. You'll find Ambedkar has made a certain kind of consciousness emerging within the Dalit masses or the Dalit Bahujan masses. Ambedkar has defined injustice, and you will see that this very injustice is denied. The very domain of injustice is taken away from those who are inflicted exclusion. And you have to understand that the kind of language used by this media and this whole kind of autonomous consciousness of Dalit Bahujan masses is somehow engrossed by the ideas of injustices. This is fake injustices. You will find that this whole ideas of fake injustice is emerging. That yes, so many years Congress is just is appeasing Muslims, and the Hindus are not given justice. So this whole idea of Muslim appeasement, this embedded kind of notion is injustice to Hindus. So you'll find that this whole kind of idea of love jihad, injustice. So they are building different kind of fictions, fake kinds of narratives, and around it, they are building a certain kind of engagement with injustices which are not real, which are not at all real, and they are castigating the real injustices as the arrogances, as the irrelevant things. So the issues of peasantry would be sidelined. The issues of Dalits would be sidelined. The issues of laborers would be sidelined. The issues of women would be sidelined. And their injustices were not given at all cognizance. And here one has to understand why they are doing this, why they are creating the discourse of fake injustices. And the answer lies there only, that if you may you if you can create that the moment of taking of these injustices and coming forth into streets, coming forth into social medias, coming forth into several kinds of arenas, fighting against real injustices, and then you will find that there is no kind of, we can say, these processes building solidarity. They are there. When several people are making efforts to come up with their injustices, but these kinds of struggles are not building solidarity. And until we are not building solidarity, we cannot take up these mighty fascists. So one should be clear that, as one has to understand that there should be a certain kind of persistence of ideology. I will definitely see that even those who claim Ambedkar as their ideologue, claim Ambedkar as their thinker, claim Ambedkar as their philosopher, doesn't know what Ambedkar says about issues which are relevant to them. So Ambedkar as philosophy is marginalized in several ways. The new kind of postmodernism which is emerging and interpreting Ambedkar in different kind of echelons, which you are somehow, those students from Central University of Gujarat or JNU, or those people taking that ideas, and by taking that ideas you will be moving from the concrete kind of, we can say, structures which Ambedkar talked about. So this whole kind of, we can say, key lies in the kind of exercise of making Ambedkarism as a certain kind of ideology which can somehow bring revolution. So you have to make full Ambedkarism, or if you want to have a certain kind of other thinkers of India to join together, you can definitely can make some kind of, we can say, joining of thinking. But nonetheless, you should somehow see that what Ambedkar has understood as capitalism, what Ambedkar has understood as patriarchy, what Ambedkar has understood as caste. And if you can make that understanding clear, if you can make that how these kinds of institutions can be fought, there is a lineage of fighting. And if you somehow take up, you can consolidate all the issues of downtrodden caste, downtrodden masses, and come up with the mighty fight, then and then there is a possibility of change. And that is, one should take into consideration that ideology as Ambedkarism has to be seen as an important kind of plank on which we can fight. Secondly, organization. You should somehow are not aware about organization. We are most fragmented kind of masses. There is a kind of, we can say, understanding which Ambedkar has clearly mentioned in his speech Anishuddha Caste. Ambedkar says that in a particularly class situation, Marx says that workers of the world unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains. But in India, the the caste proletariat is not coming together because of caste, because he has not as the chains, but he is having his castes. So he is not giving up that caste. He is not ready to give up the caste. So they are not coming together. Even untouchable castes are not coming together. So one has to see these kinds of predicaments, and these predicaments can be only resolved by a certain kind of injustices being grappled together, struggled together, seen together. The common communication ground has to be Ambedkarism, pluralism, or if you want to fight a certain kind of systems, you can just join other ideas and make it relevant. You can make Ambedkarism more relevant, and through these kinds of exercise, one can change the situation or transform the present kind of political dilemma.
Sir, we have second question. I think you have already given the answer of this question, but sir, think you can look that question.
I've been giving the answer to you that yes,
Yes, sir.
this is a kind of process where capitalism is now changing its own kind of character. Capitalism in earlier kinds of, we can say, times has initiated moments of progressism. Capitalism is somehow coincided with democracy. Capitalism was seen as finding its own kind of position vis-a-vis rationalism. So now you'll find that capitalism is not having that characters which we have seen in 19th century, 20th century. Capitalism is now in a condition where the whole kind of system is favoring the fascist regime to prevail, where you will now take the
Due to some technical error, we are not able to add our today's speaker, Professor Bagade sir, and we are trying to resolve the problem, but I think it is very difficult, and I'm so I'm sorry for this inconvenience. And on the behalf of Babsa Sivji, I would like to thank our today's speaker, Professor Umesh Bagade, who gave his precious time to us and delivered a lecture on very important topic, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar's thought on caste slavery, and on the occasion of death anniversary or Mahaparinirvan Day of Babasaheb Ambedkar. On the behalf of Babsa, we also like to thank all the our today all the listeners who are watching this video, and I also apologize for technical error and inconvenience. Thank you so much. Jai Bhim, Jai Mandal, Hul Johar, Satrangi Seva.